My name is Mike Riley. I'm the Director of Healthcare here at IPORT. At IPORT, we're super excited about enabling our healthcare customers to transform with iOS, so to better connect with their patients, optimize their care workflows, and enable their caregivers to do their life's best work. And IPORT, along with Apple, and best-in-class iOS applications are truly enabling our caregivers to drive connected care. So better connecting patients to caregivers and their families, better connecting caregivers one to another, to enable things like real-time documentation at the point of care, and also enable real-time clinical communication and collaboration. So one of the big challenges that we're seeing today across the care continuum is really around nurse and caregiver burnout. Obviously, the pandemic put untold pressures on nursing care teams, emotional, physical toll, working very long hours with a large number of patient load, very intense pressures. And compounding that, the underlying technology stack that nurses and caregivers use is oftentimes very fragmented, which adds to the frustration. This is where IPORT and iOS can truly help our healthcare customers transform with iOS and even enable the technology experience for the caregivers to become a seamless part of the workflow. So it's no longer an inhibitor of care, but it's actually an accelerator of care. Let me give you a couple examples of what I'm talking about. If you think of an inpatient nurse, there was a recent survey that came out of the pandemic that found that 60% of inpatient nurses are feeling burnout today. Across the care continuum, 25% of nurses are actively looking to leave the field of nursing altogether. And so in an inpatient setting, even healthcare organizations that have rolled out tablets and iPhones at the point of care, and for the nurses and care team, it can still be not an optimal experience. And that's where IPORT comes in with Apple and leading clinical and patient-facing applications to help solve that challenge of how caregivers interact with technology. So if you think of a traditional workflow, if I'm a nurse coming in for my shift in an inpatient setting, when I come into the nurse station, there's typically iPhones or iPads spread about. There's charging cables everywhere. It's a rat's nest of cable I've got to peel through to find an iPhone and iPad. I've got to first hunt for that iPhone and iPad. 10 to 17% of all shared iOS devices go missing every year within the labyrinth of the health system. Couple that with the fact that 30% of those charging cables go missing or damaged each year. It means that I've got to hunt for a phone or I've got to hunt for an iPad. If I pull an iPhone or iPad out and that cable's been frayed or damaged, it means that iPhone and iPad isn't charged. I've got to input a ServiceNow or help desk ticket when I have time. It means I'm not using that device and I've got to hunt for another one. So that's impacting my efficiency as a caregiver. IPORT has solved that challenge with Apple and leading best-in-class clinical iOS applications, including Streamline, which is an app that we're going to feature with us in booth at HIMSS, their iEnterprise app. So it runs natively on the iPhone and iPad. So it's a very simple. If I'm a caregiver walking in for a nurse, I can simply pop out one of our Connect phone cases for an iPhone. You'll notice there's no cables to plug or unplug. It's simply magnetically mounted and I pop it out. Our cases are super streamlined. They're antimicrobial. They hold up well to hospital-grade disinfectants. They hold charge and protect very, very well. And they're 1 mil spec, so we do 4-foot drops on concrete to make sure they can withstand a very challenging clinical environment. But as I pop this iPhone or iPad off, the integration in with Streamline and their iEnterprise app gives us a whole host of rich telemetry. It also gives us the ability to use biometrics. So I can simply look at the iPhone, or if it's an iPad workflow for like point-click care or something like that, I simply look at the camera on the iPhone and iPad, it automatically assigns the device to me. So from an IT perspective, they know who has the device in case this device goes missing. They can also pull location intelligence. They're working on geofencing and a whole host of other really cool things. But as I'm moving about on my shift, again, either with an iPhone or an iPad, if it's an iPad workflow, one of the things that we're enabling with the iPad would be the same thing. I look into the device, authenticate in with Streamline, off I'm going rounding. Now, one of the issues that we hear from caregivers is that some feel very comfortable documenting at the point of care with an iPad, getting rid of kind of those traditional kiosk and wows and things like that. But some caregivers prefer a keyboard and mouse. So one of the really cool things that we do is with our cases, they can mount with our VESA stations to any mobile cart, any kiosk. So you could have kiosks with little shelves set out throughout the care facility. As I'm rounding and meeting with patients, I can dock that iPad in. It's magnetically mounted, connected to a keyboard and mouse. I document in real time, pop it off and go. It supports a very seamless workflow. And then at the end of my shift, I can put the iPad back in the dock. I can put the iPhone back in the dock. We do PD fast charging, so it's a 50% charge in under 30 minutes. With Streamline and iOS 26, we have return to service. So it's a super quick, light setup and reset. So it's wiping any PHI data. It's wiping any login credentials that are in there. And it's ready to go for the next caregiver to begin their shift. This is one of the many ways we're helping healthcare customers transform with iOS.